What if the biggest thing holding you back isn't your circumstances, but your thoughts? By the end of this episode, you'll know which thoughts to question, which ones to trust, and how to start directing them instead of being directed by them. Welcome to the Deliberate Life Show, the podcast to help you put yourself in the driver's seat. I'm Sally Edwards, and this is my big sister, Dana Middleton. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about, can we trust our thoughts and what can we do about them? Hi, Dana.
Hi, Sally. Hey, this is a great topic. You picked it, and I'm all on board.
Why? Well, great. And why? Why are you on board?
Because I think our thoughts are really tricky and they're really compelling, and we are taught from early on to believe our thoughts. And sometimes they're really not useful. Sometimes our thoughts get in our way, and they're not serving us or not helping us to move forward in the way we want to move forward. And that's why we want to question them. And so it's a great topic. Thanks for bringing it to the table in episode 3.
Oh, great. I'm excited to talk about it because I think it's something that we are not taught about. It's not ever brought up in schools or anywhere else that we have the choice of what goes on up here. That is just like whatever you're thinking must be true because it's up there, and it becomes very familiar because we start thinking the same things over and over again in our lives. So it's like, it must be the truth. And then sometimes have you ever had this happen? Like you're with somebody, like I might be with my husband, and we'll be in the exact same situation and we'll look at it. We'll have completely different takeaways. Like our thoughts about it are like night and day. And that's got to tell us something that is really not about what's happening. It's about how we're thinking about it.
Yeah, which one is true?
Yeah.
Who's
true? Who's right? Me.
Always me.
Yeah.
Exactly. But we get sidetracked. Our thoughts become default thoughts, not deliberate thoughts. Oh, that's what we're all about. The deliberate life, the deliberate thoughts, and recognizing where we're in kind of the pre-programmed mode, the default mode, and not even recognizing, but choosing to be more intentional with our thoughts.
Yeah, and where we're going with this whole podcast is the idea that we are programmable. Like you just said that. And that is what is so important about this, because if we couldn't change our thoughts, what's the point? But since we are programmable, we can recognize what's not working for us, and then we can start to work on being deliberate and deciding what we do want to be thinking and what is going to move us forward productively and in the way we want in our life.
And we know we're programmable because we all think differently, right? If we all thought the same, we'd be programmable in that way. But
it'd be like the Matrix. We'd all be plugged in.
We all be plugged in. But we're all plugged into our own thoughts, right? And it's so ridiculous is most of the time they're not our thoughts. They came from other people. They came from our upbringing. They came from our parents or teachers or friends or enemies or whatever it is. Our thoughts from a lot of places, and we internalize them. We remember especially some of the harder thoughts, and then they become our program.
Yeah. And so there's different ways that our thoughts really can work for us. But unfortunately, there are a lot of ways that our thoughts work against us. And we want to identify those so that then we can recognize them and be able to work on changing them and reprogramming ourselves.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important.
Yeah, with a view to becoming more empowered, to learn how to be intentional, to learn how to create deliberate thoughts that can really feel more true to who we really are.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that maybe our thoughts show up that trick us or that stop us and don't move us in the direction that we want in our lives?
Well, for sure, the critical thought. We just get that. We have so many critical thoughts. And maybe, if you've done practices, if you've worked on yourself, if you have really been more deliberate with what you're thinking, you may not have as many critical thoughts. Thank goodness I don't have as many critical thoughts as I used to have. But gosh, we can so easily slip into self-criticism, criticism of others, just criticism of the world, and it creates more critical thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, a lot of times our critical thoughts will keep us from moving forward because they're looking and comparing us to other people or to what we've done or we haven't done enough and all of those things. And we think, well, what's the point? So we just quit before we ever get started because we don't really want to be criticized. We
Yeah,
want to
and we are
quiet that voice down.
excellent quitters.
Yeah. I
As
mean,
human
all
beings,
yeah.
we are excellent quitters, right?
Because
Like this is
because
scary.
yeah, we keep talking at the same time, but that's fine. Yeah, because you're what you're saying. Go ahead.
No, I just said we're excellent quitters, right? Because we'll have a critical thought that just will talk us out of moving forward. Will talk us out of what's important to us, what we feel passionate about. Will talk us out of being in the spotlight, whatever that means for you. Like moving forward in an important area. Our critical thoughts will just say, maybe not. Maybe we don't need to do that now. Why don't we wait?
And so we do nothing because then if we're doing nothing, we won't activate that voice in our head and we'll feel more comfortable. But but that holds us back. And then we're not living, whatever it is that each of us have, want to live in our life and what's important to us. So it's really important to be aware of that critical voice and to not trust it so that it doesn't keep us from doing what we want to do.
Exactly, because we've
Yeah.
learned to trust it. That, oh, if I have that thought that I'm not enough, or that, I'm not talented enough, or I'm whatever it is, they're all the thoughts, right? I'm not, yeah, what is another thought? What are some of the thoughts that we have that come up all the time? And I'm
Well,
blanking on them.
that we may think that what do I know? They know so much more than I do. How am I, maybe I'm not credentialed enough to do something. I don't have as much experience as someone else. I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not, smart enough. It can be any of those things that can
Yeah.
criticize us.
And we all
Yeah.
know our go-tos.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that one. Oh, I'm not good enough. Or, oh, I'm whatever. That just comes up over and over again. So we want to question that because it holds us back and it makes us take score too early. When you start something like we just started this podcast, like if we take score too early, like what's even the point?
You can just shut it down and run.
Just like we're done.
Because you're going to so quickly want to take score, and that critical voice is going to come in and say, what are you doing? So I think
I told you so. I told you so.
told
This
you
was
so.
not a good idea.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then you have to say, oh no, wait. What if it is a good idea? We we want to identify, so we question that critical voice. Just start with the questioning, and then we're going to get to solutions in a few minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So another way that our thoughts can work against us is just with the amount of clutter and noise that they create in our mind. When you're so preoccupied with the amount of input that's coming in and then the way we replay it in our minds, we don't have the space to then actively direct our thoughts toward our goals, our dreams, our desires, because they're too cluttered with, whether it's to-do list or it's, revisiting a conversation or it's, thinking about the movie you watched last night. It's just noise, noise, noise. And with our phones and with, internet and with everything coming at us, there's just more noise. So one of the ways that we want to recognize is that our minds are full of a lot of clutter, and we want to create some silence, some calm, some space in order to move forward with the thoughts that we want to embed in that really work for us.
Yeah, and we have to watch what we're feeding ourselves, because another one of those is politics. A lot of people who just get kind of consumed with all this, and it can be easy to do. But those are it's just noise. And whatever it is that you're focusing on will add to that noise. And I love that you said the to-do list, because boy, the to-do list can really get noisy, because you think, I've got all this stuff to do. So then you're going to bed and maybe not sleeping well because you've got all this to do. And creating that calm is really much more healthy, because we're not just looping on things that are noisy.
Yeah. And then we don't use that mental space and energy towards something that we really want to use it toward. So like you just said, we're going to be talking more about those solutions in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
So
And
what's
one of my
another way?
favorite one is
Yeah.
the tricky thought. The tricky thought. I am the queen of the tricky thought, which is the doubt, right? Oh my gosh, all these limitations that stop us from moving forward. I mean, it took us over a year to get this podcast going. And I think that had a lot to do with the tricky voice saying, well, can we do this? Are we, who's going to listen? What's going to happen? What do we have to say? Even though we have a lot we want to say and we've coached for a long time. But I think that no matter where you are, that voice will come in. Oh, I need to lose 15 pounds voice before I'm on camera. All of those things that we do to ourselves just to push off what's important to us, because this is important to us, into the future where it's not happening.
Exactly. Yeah. And it just creates so many doubts and limitations. Like, what do you think you know? Like you were saying, it's just, or and it can also come up with all the reasons that you're too busy. I know maybe I've used that one in the past, that it can convince you that you don't have time to do something that's important, or you're not ready, and that you need
You're
to,
not, yeah, we're not
you need to
ready.
do more
Right.
to get ready.
Yeah,
So,
all that stuff that we will just keeps us back. And we don't want to be held back, because if we're not doing what's important to us now, even if it's a little bit, because we're not here to say, hey, quit your job, quit your kids, quit your life, whatever it is. We're just saying, let's create space for what's important. And we create a lot of space for the thoughts about things that really aren't true, or what are not important. So we want to switch that around.
yeah. And become more deliberate. I don't know if it's not deliberate thinkers, it's more of a deliberate programmers, because we can't always control the thought that comes in, but we can have some distance between us and that thought, and then go, now I'm gonna let you float on by, and I'm gonna pick this one instead. So that is more that we really want to work on.
Yeah, and we so easily focus on the negative thoughts and believe them actually more than the positive.
That's right. Do you want to mention that quote? We've been talking a lot and reading the book by Jim Murphy, Inner Excellence. Do you want to
Yeah.
mention the quote that you
Yeah.
wrote down that we thought was just really
Yes.
important to this topic? Yeah.
All right, Jim Murphy, can I say a minute about Jim Murphy?
Hmm.
Because Jim Murphy wrote this book called Inner Excellence in 2009. And he says this in like chapter 3. The problem is not the problem. The problem is the way you're thinking about it.
And that is the truth. If you think with everything, it's the problem, whether it's I'm not good enough, whether I'm too old, whether I'm not qualified or whatever, it's looking at our thoughts around it. And he's a mental performance coach, and that's what he helps, all athletes and other people, how to get their mental toughness and their performance ready so that they can perform at the highest levels that they want to without letting the obstacles out there stop them.
Yeah,
Without the
absolutely.
obstacles that are usually here.
It's a
Yeah.
great book. We
Yeah.
highly recommend it. And since we talked about luck last week, you have got to tell the story about this man.
Well, it's really interesting. I've actually bought his book for my husband and both of my sons, because I think he really is appealing. I mean, of course, he's appealing. We think it's great, but to men, because it is kind of very, I guess because he's a man and it's very sports, relatable and all that. Anyway, he first published this book in 2009. And it wasn't until last year in 2025, during the NFL playoffs, and that this book really, became well known. And what happened was AJ Brown, who plays for the Philadelphia Eagles, was on the sideline, and the cameraman panned over to him, and he was actually reading a book on the sideline at the playoffs. And so everybody's like, well, what's he doing? What's he reading? And, they were able to kind of, I guess, see the cover of the book enough to see what it was. And it was this book, Inner Excellence. Later, AJ Brown talked about how he used that for his mental training, so he could go out and be the best performer that he could be and not let his thoughts stop him, which was so powerful. But the lucky part that you just brought up was the fact that this guy wrote the book in '09, and it didn't become like a New York Times bestseller until 2025. So if
Which
I'm
is
doing the math
crazy.
right, that's 16 years.
It's
But
amazing.
he wasn't taking, but he also was very patient. He wasn't taking score. He knew that his book would do whatever it needed to do at the right time and in the right place. And it did.
It would find the right people at the right time. And AJ Brown, is like a big player. It wasn't like he had lots of time sitting on the sidelines. But one thing he said, which I love so much, I mean, I love seeing somebody like him say that of my performance as an athlete, and this can go to anything. He says, it's 10% football, it's 90% mindset. I was like, oh, yes,
That's
it is. Yes, it
and that's what
is.
we love talking about.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because that is the truth for all of our lives.
And we don't know that. Why don't we teach this to kids? I mean, immediately, that what you bring into a situation will, in your mindset, will determine how that goes. I mean, we really, really believe this. So these thoughts are, when you have these, thoughts that aren't going to help you, they're really worth looking at.
Well, and we're going to talk about why we have these thoughts and then what we do about them. And so I want to bring up my Science Sally moment, as you like to call it,
Yes.
just to mention this, because I do think it's important to know why we have these negative thoughts to begin with. Because it's like, well, why are they there? They originated at, they came from our distant ancestors, the cave people. That basically they needed negative thoughts to keep them safe for survival, because if if they were just like looking at all the pretty things and not noticing maybe the rustling in the bushes, then they were going to get eaten by whatever might be there. So their brains developed to really notice what they needed to look at, which was usually the negative, in order to survive. And so we are descendants of that brain development. So we still have those negative thoughts in us that are there to help keep us safe. So we don't want to look at our negative thoughts like, oh, you're bad. No, they served and can still serve a purpose. But what's happened is it's way too lopsided in that we are way too focused on the negative, on what keeps us safe, what is survival, instead of us really looking at moving forward in a way that today we need thoughts that help us thrive. So we don't want to, we don't want to just say, well, this is all bad. It's not. It has served us, but we're kind of ready for something new and to be able to have a little more control over our thoughts.
We're ready for some evolution.
Yeah, to move forward.
Evolution.
Yeah. But to me, I always like to know kind of why, so that's why I like to bring that up.
That's why you're Science Sally. But and also our subconscious is always listening. Our subconscious is really what's running the game here. Mm-hmm. It's not our conscious thoughts. It's those thoughts that are deeply embedded. And our subconscious believes whatever we tell it, and oftentimes what other people tell it. Did I say that right? What's coming at us? We believe what people tell us about ourselves, and then we internalize it and believe it about ourselves, and then our subconscious mind makes it a fact, makes it a truth, instead of, oh, it's just a thought, like a thought.
It starts running the show, and it may be based on all the stuff that's not even true, but it believes it, and it starts running it, on the subconscious underneath, I don't know what you want to call it, underneath the, our awareness, and it's running the game. And that's where we're coming in to talk about how do you change that.
Yeah. And why it's just so important to be aware. So that's the part, just be aware. Like, what are your thoughts? Are you drifting? Are you in default mode? Or are you really focusing on what you're thinking about and making that more intentional?
Yeah, and that's what we really want to talk about is, okay, we've talked about all the things like, well, what are the trickster and the the tricky voice and the critical voice and the cluttered and all that. But now you brought up awareness. Let's talk about how we can rewire our brain and choose thoughts that really are working for us. And the first step is awareness. We can't do anything if we don't know what's going on. So we want to create space in our life. And look, how many of us have a lot of space? We don't. The minute we wake up, we pick up our phones, we, start scrolling the internet, we do whatever. And that's why space and time and awareness is so important, because we can't really know what's going on if we don't take some time, just a little bit of time to go, what's going on? What are my thoughts even saying to me, without judging them, but just being aware of them? That's the first step.
Yeah, or how I even want to start my day, or whatever it is. Like, just say, like, oh, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. So this is setting a direction for a day. Hey, let's actually put a a belief
Example?
in here,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
what I want to say, an example.
I knew what you
Can,
wanted.
can we, because I think one that a lot of people have is it's too late, or I'm too late, or I missed the
Yeah.
boat, or, I can't do this because
I've
I'm,
had that.
yeah, right. We all have had that,
Yeah.
right? Because, well, I should have done this 10 years ago or whatever. What's the point of doing it now? And life's different now. Like we have, like we're living longer. We're doing things forever. So that is not a useful belief for sure. So if you have that belief, especially around something that, oh gosh, that's really important to me, but I kind of missed it. What's the point now? If that resonates with you, and of course, if use any belief you want, but I think a lot of people can relate to that, or we've felt that before. So just to have that what is it, awareness around that, and what are some what are some good ways to have awareness or to help you unpack what's
Mhm.
going on with that belief or maybe another belief? But let's work with that example.
Well, yeah. So if you have the belief I'm too late and you want some awareness, I think, like I said, the one of the things you have to do is slow down. And some ways to do that is you can meditate, where you're watching your thoughts and you're creating space between you and your thought. A lot of people are like, I can't meditate and quiet your mind, and it's really not always about. You don't have to get quiet. You just have to go, like almost like counting sheep. You just let your thoughts kind of go by and go, huh, and you just gotta watch them with some space, and that way you can go, okay, maybe the thought and I aren't as quite as connected. There's some distance between us, and I can get to the next thing, which we'll talk about, which is questioning. But you can meditate. Journaling is a great way by putting it on paper to separate you from the thought. Talking about it with a trusted, either a counselor, a coach, or a friend that really can hold space for you, to help you to just have that awareness, could be really good. Tapping, you work a lot with people with tapping. That's a
Yeah.
great way to bring awareness
And let
into
me
your
just say,
thoughts.
if you
Yeah,
don't know about tapping, we will be talking about tapping
yeah,
along the way. But
yeah.
one thing, you can just tap right under your collarbone on both
Hmm.
sides if you're feeling confused or whatever, and just it helps to calm your nervous system down,
Calms
because
you
you're
down.
yeah, you are tapping on meridian points that that affect the energy system in your body. So you can even say, wow. If I ever have a negative thought that I want to unpack, I'm always tapping on tapping points. Um, just because what it does is it relaxes that energy that's just
Hmm.
so kind of jammed up inside of us.
And it
So tapping
creates,
is
yeah,
another great resource.
it creates that space, which is so
Yeah,
important.
for sure.
Okay, and so awareness is huge. What's another one that's really that really
Well,
helps us with our thoughts?
we can question them.
Hmm.
Question them like, is this really true? Is it really serving me to think that it's too late for me? Because okay, it's too late. So, all right, then I do nothing. And I just kind of like wait out till the end of my days, and, semi fulfilled. Or I go, wait, what if I'm not too late? What if I'm right on time? What if it could be the best time for me to do this? I mean, it feels different, right?
Yeah. And I love that idea of the, really questioning, is it true? And just sit with it for a minute, and maybe you go, well, where's the evidence? No, there's no evidence that it's too late. There's just creating that question can help you. And then you can maybe find examples of people who've done all kinds of things later, when maybe they thought they were too late, or later in life, or whatever it may be. But that gives you that to go, okay, well, if they can do it, then I can do it. That questioning slows it down. Yeah.
Why are they the exceptions?
Right.
Right? I mean, it's like, oh, that
Mm.
person did this at 66 or at 90 or whatever. Why is that so spectacular? Right? Why aren't we all doing it at all the ages? It's so that I'm vital and alive. And one thing is, I'm as young right now. You're as young as you're ever going to be. And you also have the most wisdom that you've ever had. So how could it not be the best time?
Right. That's true. You're speaking the truth, Dana. I love it.
Speaking to the choir. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Preaching to the
All right.
choir. Yeah.
All right. What else? What's it?
Another
So
one
and so
is,
these are no. So here we're going now to, these are questioning things and identifying, but then we want to have ways to reprogram.
reprogram. And one way to reprogram is to talk about the faults that you may think you have, or like, yeah, for example, the I'm too late, talk about it in past tense. So what we want to do is even though maybe you did something really stupid yesterday, you're like, oh, I'm so bad at that. But that was yesterday. That wasn't today. And so you really want to talk about it in the past tense because your subconscious is listening. So if you say things like, yeah, I wasn't, I did that poorly yesterday, but today I'm doing so much better. That your mind isn't going to just bounce that off as quickly as if you just were to totally say, oh, I'm great at this. But if you actually use that wording to talk about something in the past and then say, but now I'm getting better, or now I can do it. So, with the it's too late, like I really have always thought I was too late, that I couldn't do this now. But now I'm starting to realize that that's not the truth. And that's an easy way that your subconscious will accept the new programming because it's like, oh, okay, maybe so.
Yeah,
Um,
and
yeah,
another way is to say, I'm willing to be
yeah,
kinder to myself. I'm
yeah.
willing, because sometimes when we do affirmations, and I'm a big believer in affirmations, and that's
And
another way to
why don't you
reprogram
jump right
ourselves.
in? Jump right
Yeah,
into
well,
affirmations. Yeah,
yeah, but I would just want to say, that when
yeah.
you have, well, now I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
Oh, you were saying that, I know what you were going to say. You were saying that using the willingness helps
To
to
ramp in.
soften it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because sometimes just an affirmation that's like, I am, I'm
King
right
of the
on
world.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
which would be kind of the affirmation for I'm too late is I'm right on time, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes that feels like, oh, that's too much of an affirmation. I don't believe that at all. And so to maybe soften it to I'm willing to believe that I could be right on time, that this could be a good time for me to do this, is really, really helpful. I mean, however you can get in, because what we're trying to do is do the reprogramming, but gently. It doesn't have to be like, you need to think this now. It's not supposed to be hard, and it's not supposed to be I mean, it is homework kind of, because you got to pay attention. And it is important or helpful to create some kind of practice, even though, let's say you want to change this belief that I'm too late, to I'm right on time. So put a Post-it up, in your bathroom. I'm right on time. Oh gosh, wouldn't it be fun if I felt like I was right on time? I used to not think that affirmations worked, by the way. And we are going to have whole shows about affirmations.
And I was going to
Uh,
say, because a lot of people may go, affirmations, I've heard about them. You know what I'm saying? So why? So I think you are really good with affirmations. I mean, I know that you use them daily. You've got routines around them. I would love for you really to talk about why they do work, because a lot of people have tried them and they don't feel like they've worked. So I really want to hear what you have to say about that.
there are two kind of well, one's an obstacle and one's something you need to add to affirmations. The obstacle to affirmations is that, for instance, I would start doing an affirmation, like they say, like write it down like 20 times or what every day. And I do it for 3 days and I'd be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like on day 4, my world would just blow up. And I'd be like, these don't work. Affirmations like make your life worse.
And you
But what
call
I
me.
didn't, yeah, I'd call you, be
go,
like, what?
wow.
But what we don't realize about affirmations is that they are actually like they're bringing up what's in opposition to the affirmation. So when you start saying, "Yeah, maybe I am right on time," all this stuff, then that thought that's been living in your belly that says, "No, you're too late," is going to come up and rear up, and it's going to just like make you feel so uncomfortable, so like unmoored. You're going to get evidence in your world about how, oh yeah, I am too late. Like all of a sudden something will happen, or somebody will say to you like, oh, aren't you too old to do that? Whatever. You know what I mean? Stuff will actually like come at you. You're like, stop. I need to stop this affirmation. It doesn't mean you need to stop the affirmation. It just means you need to continue the affirmation gently,
And that's
gently.
really great to know, because I think if people can go into them knowing that third or fourth day that can happen, it's huge, because you can go, okay, this is normal. This stuff is coming up, and if I just keep going, I will get to the other side of it. But if you don't know that, you could just go, this crap doesn't work, and take off.
And it makes you feel terrible. It's
Yeah.
going to make you feel terrible. If it's a hot affirmation, right? If you're really trying to counterbalance or reprogram something that's really been in there, it may not come easily, but that's why it's so important to stick with it. And you don't have to do it for long. Just be aware. Be aware of your thoughts. Look at the post-it every day. Maybe say it in the mirror. And the other thing, this is the big one. This is what you want to add to your affirmations so that they will work in your favor, is a lot of emotion. Like, gosh, I'm right on time. Look in the mirror. I am right on time. It may feel like the biggest lie ever, but on day 1, but on day 30, and I have to do the 30 days. Yes, you may have to do it 30 days. You're going to feel differently about it because that emotion you're bringing to it. And it's really dicey stuff, though, affirmations. I mean, I'm sure we're going to have whole episodes on affirmations.
But they do work. I'm sorry. They do work. And what I was going to say about the feelings is that the more you can feel it as if it's true now, the more your subconscious will start to believe it. Because it's going to be like, oh, what's going on here? This must be true. This must be, those feelings are, like you said, it's like the secret ingredient to affirmations that a lot of times we aren't taught. So I think that's a huge one. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, to bring it into the now, like it's already has happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? I already know that I'm right on time. This brings us back to Jim Murphy. You told me something earlier today. I didn't know that since 2009, what has his affirmation been?
He said in an interview that I saw that on his phone, he had the affirmation that I am, he said it in the present, like on the screen, on the whatever you call the thing, on your phone. What do you call that?
You mean like your home screen?
Like the picture on the front of your phone. Yeah, that thing. And he has, I am a New York Times best-selling author.
And it took 16 years, but it happened.
And it took 16 years, but he had that, and he affirmed that over and over and over again. And he didn't get frustrated with it. He held it lightly and just said, at the right time, I'm just going to keep believing it. And he moved forward with his life. But that's the thing, we're so quick to take the score too soon.
That's the best example, because
16 years.
He could not orchestrate what happened to him.
He did not know A.J. Brown. He had no idea he had the book. None of it. And that the cameraman panned to him right at that moment. I mean,
and that everybody started talking about it.
Yeah.
And then it shot to the bestsellers list.
Yeah.
Those are things we can't control the how, but we can be dedicated and devoted to the thought.
Absolutely. And that's what's exciting, is that we are the deliberate creators of the way our life moves forward based on the thoughts that we choose and that we program ourselves with. And that's what we want to talk about. That's why we are here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That is it. And this is how we start, with bringing big energy to the small steps that really change our lives. And they really, really do, or we would not be here. We would not be wasting your time. We really want this to be impactful and meaningful, and give you some ideas about what you can do, especially to change your lives in areas that feel sticky.
Yeah.
Right. So it could be this belief that I'm it's too late. We're going to say, oh, I'm right on time, or maybe you can't say it as if it's happened yet. I'm willing to feel like I'm right on time. You can ramp up to it, but to get to that place, but it could be anything. It could be any thought that's sticky for you. You can start to give it that attention.
So that's what I was going to say, that we really want you to think, okay, what is one thought that you have been treating like a fact that you would like to start bringing that awareness to, questioning, and then work to reprogram it. Something that you can start with something really small if you want to, if you don't want to jump in the deep end, or you can start with something bigger, but just be aware of some of the things that can come up. But a lot of times, if you'll start with something that is smaller, you don't have as much resistance, and you might be able to see some forward movement with your beliefs quicker. Just because you're like, yeah, whatever, if you start with something that's not as important. So that would probably be a recommendation, and then build up.
What if I'm talented enough? What if I'm good enough? What if I'm smart enough? Mm-hmm. What if? I love the what if reframe, so.
And I'm willing. Anyway. I'm willing to see it differently.
I'm willing to, if seeing different, I'm willing to change.
Yeah. All right.
And I'm willing and let's just say the last thing, I'm willing not to believe a thought that doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
Because that really is, right? You can tell if a thought is is true, it usually feels better than a thought that is not true.
And if that thought is giving you some kind of information, then even if it doesn't feel good, look at it for and what good can come from it. What information do you have for me? Let's use it in some way proactively, and just instead of just sitting with something that may be, critical. Let's use our thoughts toward the way we want to move forward in our life.
Excellent. Yes, let them help us instead of hinder us. All right, we're done. Thank you for hanging out with us on this. See, I'm doing it. She says that I'm the long goodbyer, so I'm
You're
gonna be
doing
good at
great.
wrapping
Great
this
job,
up.
Dana.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today on our third episode. If you have comments, questions, maybe you have an affirmation you want to work on, please leave it in the comments. Follow us on, I said last time, Amazon. It's not Amazon, it's Apple. And it is Spotify and YouTube.
YouTube.
That's right. So come and
And
join us.
please like us and subscribe. We would love it. We appreciate you being with us. This is just the greatest thing to be together with you, Dana. And I appreciate you all being with us.
Absolutely. Me too. All right. We'll see you. We're here on every Tuesday. So we will see you next week. And think about your thoughts this week. You're in charge of them. All right. Bye.
Bye.